Hello, YouTubers, friends, compatriots, bootlickers, shills, debt slaves, serfs, peasants, vassals, minions, meat sacks, arms sellers. I'm usefully welcome. So, there seems to be a lot of hubbub about the fact that Tucker Carlson has claimed that half of the weapons that went to Ukraine are being sold on the black market and that they're ending up in the hands of Mexican drug cartels. And he says that he knows this for a fact, but doesn't reveal any more details or any more sources. And so it's a little bit problematic. But then I did a search, and of course we have 2 pages of Google fact checking that says this is completely untrue, there's no basis for it, and that Tucker Carlson's insane. But then when you keep digging a little bit, a lot of older material shows up that seems to indicate that he is definitely on the right track. And first of all, I want to point out I did 2 videos recently that tie into this. One is the fact that President Zelensky of the Ukraine has claimed that out of the somewhat near $180 billion that's been given to the Ukraine and all the weapons that have been given to Ukraine, Zelensky doesn't know where most of that money went. So that's problematic. And then we have another report that I did a video on about the fact that the U.S. government has admitted they don't really know what weapons have been shipped, what weapons have not been shipped, what is actually in Ukraine, how much money has been spent. There's just no tracking done. Different departments use different methods, and they really don't know all the weapons that have been given to Ukraine. And we've had a lot of attention given to that by Congress over the last few years about finding some kind of accountability about tracking all these weapons going to the Ukraine, just been flooding into the Ukraine. And that doesn't even include all the weapons flooding into Ukraine from the EU. So what we're finding is there's little tracking, there's little oversight. There certainly isn't any tracking or oversight in Ukraine. And one of the other things that's interesting about this is similar to what happened in Afghanistan. All we know is we left $8 billion worth of equipment in Afghanistan in the quick exit under the Biden administration. And now weapons from Afghanistan are being sold, and they're ending up in all kinds of places around the world. And so there's no reason not to believe that certainly in a country like Ukraine, this would be happening. Particularly because in Afghanistan, of course, we have the Taliban and the military there getting a hold of U.S. weapons. And a lot of them they want to use, but a lot of them they're going to sell to make money. In Ukraine, that's their bread and butter. Long before the Ukraine war began, Ukraine was known as being one of the largest black markets for arms in the world. And so very little's changed. And now we're finding out that not only is there a huge swath of weapons going to the Ukraine that are ending up with the Ukrainian military, but they're also ending up in the hands of civilians. They're also ending up in the hands of a lot of volunteer brigades who have no big connections to the Ukraine military, and so they have their own agendas. And once again, there's no accountability or no tracking of the weapons. They can track what goes to the Ukraine military in general, but there's no accountability for what ends up in a lot of volunteer brigades there. And so you go back a little bit, and in 2016, so this is almost 10 years ago, the uncontrolled black market. Ex-soldiers were becoming arms dealers, and you could buy any kind of weapon you can imagine, including missiles, rocket launchers, tanks, lots of small arms. And a lot of these weapons have been smuggled into the Middle East, and we've seen that. And a lot of these weapons are ending up in places all over the globe, just as Tucker Carlson is saying. So most of the weapons come from the Ukraine military as well. And another interesting story is going back to 1998. The Ukraine Parliament discovered that $32 billion of weapons they inherited from Soviet stockpiles were missing or stolen. So this is going back well over 20 years ago. and this kind of pattern was already seen. $32 billion worth of weapons inherited from withdrawing from the Soviet Union or Russia, or as a Russian Federation, um, they can't account for, and they ended up in the black market. And Pentagon officials have been talking about this for years, well over a decade, talking about the fact there's no accountability, no tracking, and that a lot of these weapons are ending up in the black market. So even from Pentagon officials and the U.S. government, we have a confirmation that there's massive amounts of weapons ending up on the black market from Ukraine. And in 2022, Ukraine general even came out and admitted that 50% of the weapons were lost. And so that would seem to confirm what Tucker Carlson's saying, although we don't know exactly that 50% of missing weapons ended up on the black market. But now we're given a number, and he says the weapons were sold on the black market. And so that was only 3 years ago. And we're seeing a lot of these weapons that are being found in places like Somalia, Sudan, Yemen, Bosnia, Kosovo, and Albania, and even ended up in the hands of ISIS. And in 2014, 300,000 small arms were found missing, and a lot of them were showing up on the dark web and the internet and the black market. And so, as I mentioned, even before the Ukraine-Russia war started, Ukraine already had the largest black market sales of guns in the world. So there's no reason why we shouldn't believe the fact that Tucker Carlson is now saying that 50% of the weapons that are ending up in Ukraine are ending up on the black market. And we know, pragmatically, a lot of the weapons the U.S. sends over there immediately being obliterated on the battlefield. And once again, there's no way really to track that other than the numbers given us by the Ukraine government, which are unreliable at best. And in this modern age of warfare with anachronisms like tanks, and then you juxtapose it with the kind of high-tech battlefield scenarios we have now, where they can use all kinds of technology. So any weapon put in the field is easily tracked and obliterated in a matter of minutes. And so definitely a huge swath of Ukrainian weapons are just getting obliterated on the battlefield. But one component of this that's common in a lot of articles I'm reading is that a lot of these weapons, Ukraine is not even capable of using. They're not trained. They don't know how to service it. They don't necessarily even know the operating systems of some of the more sophisticated weapons. And we're seeing a lot of these kind of weapons showing up on the black market. Like I say, apparently on the black market, you can get everything from small arms and grenades and explosives to automatic weapons, all the way up to artillery, tanks, and missiles and rockets and everything in between. So the short answer is Tucker Carlson could very well be right. I wish he had produced more confirmation in his sources, but with a little research, it looks like that could be a very, very realistic figure. I'm useful, don't you be one too?